All right, well, let's talk about stance and structure in Wing Chun. What is that? I mean, in various martial arts and sports, the stance and the structure is very important. What does it give you? It gives you balance, it gives you power, it gives you rooting, gives you mobility. Many things come from the stance. So let's look at some information about the Wing Chun stance. In general, when we're starting out doing Chi Sao or we're doing Siu Lim Tao, you start with your feet together, your arms come up, and then you thrust your elbows backwards. And then you sink the knees, out with the feet, out with the heels, boom, and sink. Now in the process of this basic stance, some people say it's triangle stance, goat stance, triangle stance, mostly like. Let's show you from the side. So we're here, arms up, and then we're pulling back. And what this is doing is, this is working on our lap sao grab and our pull, it's elbow strike at the same time. Now sink down, feet out, feet back, boom. And your hips kick a little bit forward. So my hips are a little bit forward. And what you'll notice is if you ever try this with another person, is this lowers the center of gravity and increases your stability. My feet are angled like this out in a triangle, but it really keeps you stable against getting pushed over. Now, obviously I don't walk around this way. It looks really weird and goofy, but I mean, you really relax speed and mobility. But it's helping to establish a lot of the different concepts as we work in through our Wing Chun. There's usually more than one purpose and more than one benefit from the various things you do. We might learn one and see it and not even realize that there are multiple others. So this obviously is helping our center of gravity, helping to find our root and our base, and helping to be relaxed. That's a Wing Chun concept too. In a way, you're relaxed, until you explode into strikes or a movement. And that way it keeps you from being tense, it conserves energy, and helps balance and rooting and coordination, and then it's also going to enhance your power and explosiveness, that you can be relaxed and then boom, right in power. Okay, so here's our stance. It's our typical stance, right? All right, now another stance we use is called Chum La stance, and that's a lot like your typical fighting stance, right? Where one leg is in front, a little bit of angle, one leg is behind, not too wide, not too close together, but kind of a comfortable distance. Your back foot can be angled a little bit towards the front, and your weight distribution, classically you'll hear people say 70-30, 70% back leg, 30% front, but there's variations. Some people do 50-50, some people do like 60-40-ish. Basically your back foot has a little more weight, because that way it's easier to use your front foot to strike with, or even push off with your back foot like Bruce would do. But yeah, and that's our stance. And usually in Wing Chun also, another tenet or feature of it is, rather that we're not in a fully sideways stance like you see with some forms of karate and stuff. The reason for this is we basically lose the use of our whole other side. And so the goal is, a lot of times Wing Chun, I know it's a bigger target because you're like this, but you a little bit of angle, kind of like with JKD, except they use the strong side lead. So you're, depending on which hand you want, forward, right, or left. Your body is angled towards the person, slightly off, but this way you have the use of both hands to strike with, depending on whatever you need, or to grab, and so you have just more to use at the time. Okay, so now we talked about how there's sinking. There's rooting. You always want to move and re-root when you can. You don't want to be up on your toes, and in Wing Chun your feet are flat on the ground, but don't feel too heel heavy, where you've got to move slowly. Like I've noticed some YouTube videos where you see somebody doing like this, and they're moving real slowly. That's really stiff and robotic and tense, versus being light on your feet. You can still move fast, depending on what you do with your feet. You just kind of shove off with the balls of your feet, and you can still stay pretty mobile. All right, I should pan the camera down, but like for Wing Chun also, another feature as we're working on these things is posture. We talked a little bit of lean, but in general, you want good posture. Think about it. If I'm leaning back too much, like I have more room for my head, but see how weak this posture is? Somebody can just dodge around and push you back, and you lose your posture. On the other hand, if I overcommit to punches, that's another feature of Wing Chun, is there's not really overcommittal. You might, if you overcommit your punch, you can be, boom, if you get too much lean into it, you kind of get off balance, and then somebody could take out your knee or come around you. So the goal a lot of times in Wing Chun is, I like to say, move your whole body together. Right? Rather than trying to lean at somebody or lean at somebody, if you can't make the distance, move your whole self. Move your whole self. Move your whole self. To side, boom, back, and just switch your feet. But move your whole self. I like to think of a pole or something in the middle, so your posture is always good. It's upright. Even if you have to tuck in a little bit, you still have good posture. I'm not leaning over or way back. So good posture wherever I go. Any direction, good posture. Good posture, good posture, good posture. All right. Now another feature of that with Wing Chun, since we have straight line theory, which we talked about on the first video, there's also a lot of pivoting and angles. Your waist energy, your waist stance energy is called Yuma. And that's basically the force of turning. So in Wing Chun, you'll see a lot of forms, like with Chum Kiu starting to work on it, where you're turning. You're turning, and your hips turn with it. You turn. Because a lot of times, let's say to dissipate force, if somebody hits you right in the middle, and you eat it all, you know, it's hard to keep your balance. Where if someone pushes you a little bit to the side, you can just flow with it. You know, if somebody's rushing at you, maybe you can pull out of the way. Part of BUG, there's a section where you kind of grab and pull down, boom, boom, and pull somebody out of the way. So rotation is an important aspect. Rotation and angles. You know, if you're encountering too much resistance at the front and you just can't get through, a lot of times step into the side, boom, gives you that angle of attack to open up for things. So we've got our pivoting, our balance, our rooting. What else is good? Early in the first video we talked about striking from the heart. A lot of Wing Chun is from the heart, from both in the spirit and internal power and goodness, but also right from the physical center of the body. You know, in general, when we think of the Wing Chun punch or a lot of Wing Chun things, our elbow is down, it's not up. A lot of arts, you know, you like the boxing, you know, your arm's up and it rotates, boom, and your shoulders up, boom. But we'll see as we work on things and with the inch punch and stuff like that, your elbows are down and it relaxes, but that gives you a lot of power and shock absorption. And as you practice it more, it seems weak here at first because until you get used to the feel of it, but if you're relaxed, then you can just boom, boom, you can just shove right through and make a lot of power happen. Plus the elbow down, it helps cover your center a little more. You can use it as a strike, you know, different ways, but it's also just kind of extra covering. You need to cover from the side, you know, you can use your elbows as strikes as well as covers. So center line theory, good posture. Now one thing we also work on with stance, as I mentioned, move your whole body as part of Wing Chun. A lot of sports is like that, move your whole body. If you need more space, take another step. If you need more space, take 2 steps. But move your whole body as a unit, not leaning, not swaying, not hunched over, but you move as a unit in balance. So wherever you go, your body's in balance, your posture's good. And as we talked about before, coming back to the center with Wing Chun, you can be in wherever you happen to be. Let's say the attack comes over there, I can simply pivot and be right back at the center of my opponent. Here, boom, right back to center. So you're refinding center. Wherever Fang Xiao's, boom, jumps out, punches, you're always refinding the center. So those are some of the principles of Wing Chun, about the internal energy, the rooting, the balance, finding angles. You know, a lot of times you can't get through the middle. So go ahead and find the angle. You can sometimes step sideways, but a lot of times you can step on the diagonal. Because when a strike comes at you, if you're out of the way, then not only have you dodged a little bit or deflected, but now you're closer to the opponent to strike them with various other strikes. So yeah, that's some of the basic principles. With stepping too, I should mention, on the Wing Chun, usually we pivot on the heels. So when you watch people's feet, I should try to get panned down on the feet of this. You pivot on the feet, and you're stepping. We always make sure that when we take a big, like your footwork matches, your steps match. You take a little small step at the front, take a small step back, big boom, and you kind of make them match. You don't want to be excessively wide or excessively close, but you want to kind of keep your steps in synchronization and in balance, and that'll help you move whichever direction you want. You know, boom, boom, boom. And the heels on the ground give you power, so if you need it for a kick, or if you need it for a punch, you've got that extra rooting, but yet don't feel heavy. Have a secure footing, but yet feel light on your feet, where you still use the ball of your foot to push different directions, wherever, you know, right, left, forward, back, whatever, and that will give you speed in different directions to juke around. All right, yeah, we'll work on some footwork footage as well, so you can see what I'm talking about.